Hey everyone, my name is Nikki Young, and this is Serial Napper, the true crime podcast for naps. I'm back with another true crime story to lull you to sleep or perhaps to give you nightmares. On September 4th, 2023, at around 5:53 a.m., 19-year-old Noah Presgrove was found dead on the side of an Oklahoma highway. It was a really bizarre scene. Noah was found wearing mismatched shoes with only one of the shoes belonging to him. His shorts were found a few feet away from his body, along with 3 pieces of white metal chain and part of his tooth. There were 2 chunks of hair found, one on the roadway and one on his right butt cheek. Noah had attended a party earlier that evening where there was a ton of alcohol involved. He had also been in a UTV accident at the party, but was not seriously injured. At first glance, it appeared that he may have been the victim of a hit and run while walking home from the party, but his autopsy result would show that that may not be the case. His cause of death was labeled undetermined, while his manner of death was as a result of multiple blunt force injuries, including trauma to his skull, almost splitting it in 2, his neck, torso, teeth, and tongue. It would later be revealed that Noah had been involved in an argument shortly before leaving the party, and now many, including his family, wonder if someone purposely took his life. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol is not currently investigating Noah's death as a homicide. However, Noah's family wants answers, and they're raising money to try to hire a private investigator. We're going to talk about all of the reasons Noah Presgrove's suspicious death deserves to have a second look. So, let's jump right in. I want to preface this by saying that Noah's case is very recent and it's very active. So, there are a lot of pieces still coming together and there's a lot still to be learned. There's a lot of conflicting information out there between web sleuths, the mainstream media, investigators, and Noah's family. So I'm going to try to keep this as accurate as possible using most information that has been provided by the family themselves. There are also a lot of theories out there and really high emotions because this is just devastating. But I'm not going to be sensationalizing anything here or making any accusations against anyone when we don't have all of the facts. That's just not something that I do. The point of covering Noah's story is to get more eyes and ears on the case and hopefully put some more pressure on law enforcement to dedicate more resources to finding out what truly happened to Noah Presgrove. Noah was born on May 14, 2004 in Duncan, Oklahoma to his parents Victor Presgrove and Casey Elliott. According to his obituary, he was a country boy at heart, very outgoing, spontaneous, and a bit of a ladies' man. Honestly, I loved that they included this little bit in his obituary because it probably would have made him smile. He was a jokester who loved to play pranks and to make people laugh. Noah was also a very handsome young man. Growing up in Comanche, Oklahoma, he loved anything and everything to do with being outdoors, especially being out on the water. He was an athlete who loved to skateboard and participate in just about any kind of sport, including football and wrestling. At just 19 years old, he had big plans for the future. In the spring of last year, he had just graduated from high school, and he was going to be enlisting in the Marine Corps, something that he would have been well suited for with his physical abilities and the dedication that he showed for any endeavor he took on. He was this tall, goofy, fun, outgoing young guy, the absolute life of the party, as is evident in all of the videos that I've seen of him. And that brings us to the Labor Day weekend of 2023, which was to take place during the first weekend of September. Initially, Noah had planned to go to a 3-day music festival called Rocklahoma with a few of his family members. But there was going to be this huge weekend-long party, like a 4-day party, that all of his friends were going to be going to, including his friend's 22nd birthday party. Ultimately, he decided to go that route. It was going to be this big, alcohol-fueled event with lots of teens and young adults in attendance. The party had been promoted all over social media, including Snapchat, and just about everyone was going. The weekend kicked off with the 22nd birthday party of one of Noah's female friends on Saturday night. Noah drove himself to this party and he had a great time without incident. He spent the night at the birthday girl's house and then he drove home Sunday morning to freshen up and sleep off a hangover. Noah had been emancipated from his parents at the age of 17, and he lived with his grandmother, who remembered seeing him stop by for a little bit. The party was to continue later that Sunday evening. This time, he had someone come to pick him up and bring him to the party at around 5 p.m. while he left his car at home. This party Sunday night was wild. With about 40 teens in attendance off and on, there was a lot of alcohol being passed around, people were going nuts, and just generally having a good time. There would be tons of photos and videos taken at the party and shared on social media. Noah could be seen in many of these videos doing what young, drunk people like to do, wrestling around with friends, enjoying beer pong, and playing the slap game, where people try to slap each other across the face as hard as they can. My generation didn't do this, but I've seen this trend on TikTok. The night was well documented by those in attendance, and I swear I thank God every day that social media didn't exist when I was that age, because I would just about crawl under a rock in shame. Noah truly was just being a typical 19-year-old kid, but what happens when you mix copious amounts of alcohol with young people? Fights. And this party was no exception. The first fight happened between Noah and his best friend Jack when there was this misunderstanding about an interaction between Noah and Jack's girlfriend. Apparently, Jack thought that Noah and the girlfriend were being a bit too chummy with one another during a conversation. Thankfully, this tense situation was short-lived because it was just a total misunderstanding, and Noah and Jack made up. There wasn't any sort of physical conflict. The second altercation happened between Noah and another teen at the party who accused Noah of taking his phone. The phone was ultimately found underneath the cushion of a couch. Apparently someone had been sleeping on it, but not before things turned physical. According to other guests at the party, this teen put his finger in Noah's mouth. He kind of fish hooked him, basically, and Noah bit the finger, which is exactly what I would do if someone stuck their finger in my mouth. The fight was broken up before things really escalated, and Noah and this teen went their separate ways. But the alcohol continued to flow, and as these teens got more intoxicated, they got rowdier. Having the events of that evening documented all over social media turned out to be a blessing because everyone there was incredibly intoxicated, meaning it would have been difficult otherwise to try to piece together a timeline of the night. Some pictures and videos showed girls writing "Noah's hot" and drawing things like a cartoon penis on Noah's body, including on his back and his butt. Noah can be seen in videos dancing around shirtless in a pair of shorts, wrestling around, play fighting, getting slapped. Another photo showed one of the teens holding a rifle, and you can see Noah standing in the foreground. It's actually quite surprising that no one else at the party was seriously injured or killed that night, because you have this large group of teens who have quite literally been consuming alcohol for days at this point. They're all fighting and generally being obnoxious, as teens can be, and then someone is there with a gun. This is not how good decisions are made. It was messy. At one point, Noah and his friends decided to drive around in this Gator utility vehicle, which kind of looks like a golf cart, and they were intoxicated. There was a rollover incident. Noah didn't appear to be seriously injured at the time, but alcohol will make you feel invincible, even if you're gravely wounded. In my early 20s, I had an ex-boyfriend who was nearly killed during an altercation after the bar. He was literally stabbed in the head, resulting in him ultimately losing his speech and much of his memory and needing to have the top portion of his skull temporarily removed because of all the swelling. but at the time that it happened, when he was stabbed, he was really drunk. So when it happened, he was walking around with this knife stuck in his head and acting like he was totally fine. So we don't really know the extent of what injuries Noah may have sustained in that UTV accident. He could have been suffering from internal bleeding, a concussion, and God knows what else when he continued on through the night. After the rollover incident, Noah returned to the party and he continued drinking. At some point, it's alleged that he was showered. He didn't really do this by himself. It sounds more like people showered him. Maybe because he was dirty from the UTV accident, or maybe it was this cold shower to try to sober him up. What we do know is that when his body was found on the highway in the morning, much of the Sharpie marker drawings had been washed off. And then there was yet another altercation. Things get kind of messy and unclear here. All of this is alleged, and it's basically been just spread through word of mouth. Noah isn't around anymore to tell us exactly what happened, so this is all the information that we have to piece together the last few hours of his life. The story that's been told is that the birthday girl had a crush on Noah, and they had this drunken conversation about it, more like an argument. He may have called her a few mean names, like saying that she was a fat bitch, and there was a big blow up. Noah allegedly had a girlfriend who was younger than him and not at the party, but he definitely could have let this girl down more gently. At around 2 a.m., Noah said he was leaving to go for a walk, and this was allegedly the last time that he would be seen alive. Wearing his friend's shorts and 2 different pairs of shoes because he could only find one of his own, he took off down the half-a-mile-long driveway and towards a major highway. His body would be found just before 6 a.m., approximately 1.3 miles or 2 kilometers away from the house, but not before some other strange things happened. At around 3:41 a.m., a girl who had also been at the same party, she posted a photo of herself smiling on Snapchat with a caption that read, quote, "Well, Noah's missing." In the early morning hours of September 4th, a truck driver passed by what he believed to be a body lying on the shoulder of the highway. The US 81 is a 2-lane highway with 2 traffic lanes and a speed limit of 65 miles per hour. It's been described as, quote, poorly lit at night. And looking at photos and videos of where Noah's body was found, this would have been a dangerous strip for him to be walking down. It's got this fairly narrow strip of gravel on each side of the road where someone would be walking. And with all of this happening before the sun was out and it was still dark, it would have been pretty easy to miss someone walking on the side of the road, especially if this person was intoxicated and maybe not walking in a straight path. Either way, this trucker couldn't believe his own eyes, so he decided to circle back to confirm what he saw. And when he came back, he confirmed that it was indeed the battered, lifeless body of Noah Presgrove, curled up in a fetal position, completely naked, wearing only mismatched shoes, an Adidas on his left and Hey Dudes on his right. Despite the fact that there were obvious signs of blunt force trauma to his head, there was very little blood found at the scene. Noah had scrapes to his left shoulder and hip, and his fingertips had been completely shredded. His teeth had been knocked out, and a part of his tooth was found near his body, along with 3 pieces of white metal chain and the shorts that he had been wearing earlier that night. His brother actually described these shorts as being folded up next to him. They were completely undamaged, despite Noah having injuries to his hips and his buttocks. There were also 2 chunks of hair found, one on the roadway and one on his right butt cheek, and neither had the roots attached to them, so they hadn't been ripped out. An autopsy would later confirm that Noah's injuries were far more extensive than it initially appeared. He had 10 broken ribs. His skull was nearly ripped into 2. He had serious neck and spine fractures, internal bleeding, brain and organ damage, and cuts and scrapes all over his body. He was bleeding from both ears, his upper and lower lips were split, and the left side of his tongue was torn. He had 20 milliliters of blood pooled in his head from trauma to his brain, and air in his cranial cavity and spinal cord, which, according to medical professionals, is extremely rare and only caused by massive head trauma. He suffered from severe internal bleeding, and both of his lungs were punctured. It was a horrific scene. The medical examiner's report was just released on Monday, May 13th, and it stated that Noah died from multiple blunt force injuries. However, how he died is listed as unknown. Noah had a blood alcohol level of 0.14, but no drugs were found in his system. While initially it looked like Noah could have been a victim of a hit-and-run type situation, shockingly, there were no vehicle parts or any sort of debris observed on the scene. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol has also stated that this was 100% not a hit-and-run. Noah was from a small town, and word spread quickly about what had happened to him. He was on his way to a fishing trip with his dad when he saw the commotion and he pulled over on the highway, finding it was Noah who had been found deceased on the side of the road. There are allegations that Jack's father had some of Noah's teeth in his pocket, and he would later state that he, quote, accidentally picked them up from the crime scene. But who does that, and why? As the teens from the party began to talk, social media posts, photos, and videos of the evening's events, they began to disappear. Maybe the teens were afraid of the repercussions of their underage drinking, or maybe there were other reasons. We don't know. However, the police were aware of the party, and they interviewed several of the teens who had attended. No one seemed to know what had happened to him. They all claimed that Noah said he was just going to be going for a walk, and then he never returned. Oddly enough, Jack's girlfriend, the one Noah had been speaking to, causing the first altercation of the night, denied even knowing who Noah was at first. She also allegedly wiped her phone clean. All the data was gone. That's not the only strange behavior by some of those who had attended the party. As I mentioned previously, Noah had showered at some point during the party, and apparently his clothing was dirty, so he borrowed his friend's shorts. His shirt had been left behind at the party house. When he was found dead, his shirt was then cut up and distributed amongst the teens as a sort of memento to Noah. However, Noah's wallet, it has never been found. It was learned that Noah had 2 phones on him that night. Investigators decided to see where the phones had pinged in those early morning hours, and they learned something shocking. Both of the phones were traced leaving the house and going to the location where Noah's body would be found. But the phones were also traced returning back to the party house. Obviously, Noah didn't go back to the party house, so how does that make any sense? According to a private investigator who has been hired by Noah's family, individuals from the party claimed that the phones were actually left in that Gator utility vehicle, and they were moved around when the UTV was used to go out and look for Noah. A couple of them had taken this vehicle and gone to search for Noah after he left for this walk. But if the phones pinged in the same location where Noah's body had been found, wouldn't that mean that the teens looking for him would have found his body on the side of the road? To me, this is one of the most alarming pieces of information. To me, this makes it seem like Noah was already dead. Oklahoma's Department of Public Safety has stated that while authorities are not currently investigating the case as a murder, the investigation is not over. However, Noah's family hasn't been happy with the way that the investigation has gone so far, so they've hired a private investigator who has supposedly uncovered a lot more information that hasn't been released yet, which I think is a great idea. This is a small town where secrets are often hidden. We have a large group of teens who were all underage, drinking copious amounts of alcohol, and of course acting like a bunch of fools, including slapping the shit out of each other and driving around drunk in a utility vehicle. And I get it. Many of us have been there. There's not much else to do in towns like this. When you're young, you think you're invincible. You're not worried about any of the potential consequences to your actions. But a young man lost his life, whether someone did something intentionally or there was some kind of accident. His family deserves to have those answers. There are several theories that people online and in the community have been throwing around. Some believe that Noah's body was dumped on the side of the highway, that he was already dead when he was left there. He had sustained horrific, brutal injuries, and yet there was hardly any blood found at the scene. It's also really strange that he was found naked besides wearing shoes, and that his shorts were found away from the body, apparently folded up. That's not consistent with a hit and run situation. There are theories that he was maybe killed with golf clubs and then dumped out of the bed of a truck, or that he was forcibly pushed from the bed of a moving truck. Some people believe that he may have even been dragged because his fingerprints, they were basically scraped off right to the bone. According to an article posted on dailymail.com, they interviewed Dr. Stuart Fisher, who has extensive experience in emergency medicine. And this doctor believes that Noah's injuries are consistent with a severe beating. He said, quote, "The poor kid never had a chance. These injuries are not amenable to surgery at all, not at the same time. There are 5 and possibly up to 10 potentially life-ending injuries. It's not just one." Dr. Fisher said that the skull fractures were the most serious injuries, and they were so severe that they were unlikely to have been caused by one impact. So, could he have been hit by multiple vehicles, maybe multiple transport trucks since they were so severe? The issue here is that no one seems to be talking, and that may have to do with the fact that everyone at the party was hammered, and so a lot of their memories are vague and missing. Noah's family says that stories from the other partygoers keep on changing, even after all of these months, so it's impossible to tell what the truth really is and what really happened. All we know is that law enforcement says that this was not a hit and run.
Somebody's got to know something. If there's 40 people standing around and someone, walks off, somebody knows about it. So if 40 people are standing around and somebody gets into a fight, somebody knows about it, and with how close everyone is, with how many pictures are taken on Snapchat, you think that something has to turn up. Somebody has to know something and just doesn't want to say it. There's a lot of areas that we're still in the dark about, that they know more about, and I'm hoping that they know more about the situation. That's kind of their job, and the only way we're going to get through this thing is if we're still hopeful. I get it that you want to protect the investigation. I get it that you want to protect the case so that way it's carried out. But quite frankly, 7 months is too long. I just hope that people see this and are able to, just maybe it'll push someone to say something, that they understand that it's being selfless. It's for someone else. It's for the true victim. If you know something, just say it. It's better to say it and let the family have some sort of peace, to let Noah have some sort of peace, than to not say anything.
It has been over 7 months since Noah Presgrove was found broken, nude, in a fetal position on the side of the highway. His family still doesn't know how this 4-day party turned into their worst nightmare. While it's uncertain whether or not this was a case of foul play, because it could absolutely have been an accident, he certainly didn't put himself in this position. Someone out there knows something, whether it's someone from the party or someone driving by him during those early morning hours. Noah's brother has set up a GoFundMe to raise funds to hire a private investigator, one who can get to the truth of it all, because so far, law enforcement, they've kind of come up empty-handed. I'll have the link to that GoFundMe in my show notes, just in case you want to donate. If you have any information about Noah's death, you're asked to contact the Southwest Regional Communications Center at 580-353-0000. 0783. That's it for me tonight. If you want to reach out, you can find me on Facebook at Serial Napper. Did you know I also have a Serial Napper true crime discussion group? It's called Serial Society, and I'll have the link in my show notes. I'd love to chat with you about this case and all of the other cases I cover, plus whatever is going on in true crime. You can find my audio on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. I post all of my episodes in video format over on YouTube, so go check it out. And if you are watching on YouTube, I would love if you can give me a thumbs up and subscribe because every little bit helps. I'm over on X, formerly known as Twitter, at serial_napper, and I post things on TikTok, Serial Napper Nick, and that's all one word. Until next time, sweet dreams, stay kind, especially in the comments. Bye.